something we also share in common, a kind of a long road to find the right partner, a long road to become a mother. It's like a fairy tale leading to last January. You have this baby girl. She's 2 weeks old. You've got the guy, you've got the partner, you've got the baby, you've got this beautiful home. And what happened?
And then we lost everything. If you would have asked me for the top 10 million things I was worried about postpartum, losing my entire town, my home, my car, my office, my everything I owned, that would not have been on the list. And I have a very creative, dark imagination about this type of stuff.
Hi, friend. Welcome to Call Me Friend, powered by Miss Lou's Cabin. This is the podcast where we call my friends and you get one heck of a great story. I have been going back and looking at some of my early episodes, and I'm partly proud, I partly cringe, but in general, I am proud that I just got myself out there. And really, what I really appreciate is your support, the way you can like, the way you share, the way you subscribe. All those things really help me and help this podcast go. So thank you in advance for all those things that you just might do for this episode. And now I also have a newsletter where you can get an alert every time a new episode of Call Me Friend is posted. If you'd like that, I have a link where you can sign up down in the show notes. So let's go back to cringing. And speaking of cringing, I am thinking about my friend, Nicole Lapin. Okay, so you're thinking that's not a very nice thing to say, cringing and my friend Nicole. But hold on, I think I'm going to connect the dots. And I think Nicole is actually going to fill in some of those dots for us as well. Sure, she is a best-selling New York Times author. Sure, she has one of the top podcasts on Apple Podcasts. It's called Money Rehab, where she is the only financial expert that you don't need a dictionary to understand. And sure, she's made a lot of her personal dreams come true, but she's also had a lot of kind of cringe-worthy moments that she's very honest about talking about. How about being a national financial news anchor on CNBC, and she had a load of personal credit card debt? That doesn't really seem on brand, but she'll talk about what she learned from that, how she got there, and more importantly, how she got out and how you can get out as well. If this is sounding real to you, well, it probably is because talking about money can be really uncomfortable. I know it is for me. I have my own complicated money story. It goes back to my family of origin. We were one thing on the outside and it looked beautiful. And on the inside, it was a total hot mess that followed me into my adult life. And it took a lot of therapy to figure that out and unwind that and make some different choices. There are few people I have rooted for more than Nicole Lapin. She has lost jobs. She has looked for love. She really wanted to be a mom. And she's made a lot of dreams come true. She rebranded her career. She dedicated herself to helping other women understand money and finance. She did find love and she became a mom. It seemed like a fairy tale. And it is, and it was, and it is, but fairy tales can have some dark chapters as well. Which leads me to last January, 2 weeks after Nicole became mom for the first time, her family's home burned down in the Palisades fire. How do you ever come back from that? What do you do? What do you grab? What has she learned? What is her perspective? And how can all that advice help those of us who are going through our own stuff right now? There's only one way to find out. Let's call Nicole. This episode is powered by Miss Lou's Cabin, an Airbnb property on a remote section of the Georgia coast. Do you ever go to a beautiful resort and look around and you want to know what did this place look like before they paved it over and put up a parking lot? Well, here's your chance. Miss Lou's Cabin sits on 7 private acres on a tidal saltwater marsh about 50 minutes south of Savannah, Georgia. A place so quiet, you won't even hear road noise. Instead, you're going to hear pink spoonbills, wild dolphins feeding by your private dock, the breeze whistling through the Spanish moss that hangs from the countless grand oak trees all around the property. The porch overlooking the marsh is the perfect place to hang with family, read a zillion books, catch the sunrise, you name it. All while you stay in this restored log cabin that has all the comforts and amenities of a beautiful home. Miss Lou's Cabin. Check it out on the link below in the show notes, or simply Google Miss Lou's Cabin and you'll find this piece of paradise. Hi, friend.
Hi. Oh my God, it's so good to see you.
So good to see you.
I feel like I'm already going to cry. I feel so many things.
Can we start? I just want to reach through the phone and the camera. I want to give you a hug for so many things.
Thank you.
Can I go down my list of hugs?
Yes, please.
My list of hugs for I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
My list of hugs for I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you.
For everything you've gone through, and my hug for even with all the things, all the blessings and all the things. So I'm just going to wrap that just in one big hug. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Daryn. You're the best. Thank you.
I was telling Abe, our engineer, I said, when you see Nicole, and this is for everyone, some people will watch on YouTube, but some people, listen audio because I know you know the whole podcast world. But I said, Nicole is one of those people. She is so physically beautiful that you just want to kind of stare at her. But the tricky thing is that her outside doesn't match her inside, because when someone is this beautiful, you don't expect them to be even more beautiful on the inside. That's how I describe you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. I feel so undeserving of that coming from you. I would be almost embarrassed to have you be a fly on the wall for how I talk about you. I was actually just telling my producer about you, so I'm already verklempt about how you've truly changed my life. Truly. There's no other woman on the planet that I could look to and say, wow, one simple email from you 20 years ago changed my life. So that means so much coming from you.
That's so funny, because I emailed you. I remember, didn't you come up and introduce yourself to me at CNN? How did this happen?
So I have heard about Daryn Kagan forever. So we went to the same high school. We had the same
that's true.
journalism teacher. And
Mr. Chesterton, Mr. C, the late Mr. C.
No.
And just for the record, many, many decades apart, I am pretty sure I graduated before you're even born. But in any case, Mr. C taught forever and ever and ever and ever.
He ran the cable access station, Channel 6. And he was like, guys, one day you can make it big like Daryn. And I had just heard Daryn all the time as if you're this larger than life superstar, which you absolutely are. And I was like, that's never gonna happen to me. But something so wonderful to aspire to. And it was so cool to see that somebody made it so big coming from Channel 6 where I was doing the little local cable access news. And somehow, maybe 5 years after that, I get a call to audition for the digital network that CNN was starting. And I was like, I know one goddess superstar. Let me see if I can email her and track her down, and maybe I could just smell her hair or just be in her orbit or her aura. I don't know. Maybe she'll just wave to me or something like that. And you sent me such a gracious email back, and you invited me over to sit at the anchor desk. I mean, it's truly a moment and graciousness that I will never ever forget. So thank you.
So it is kind of tracking. You did reach out to me first. And so CNN did hire you, and it is kind of, I don't want to say funny, but that it was digital and that it was going to be streaming. It was this cutting edge thing that ultimately didn't work, right? It ultimately kind of sputtered, not because of you. Because it was before its time. Yeah, not because, but it was before its time, I think, is what it was.
It really was. It was 24-hour news on the internet. And at 21, I started there. 21, I got my dream job. 25, I was fired from my dream job or let go. They laid off everybody, the whole department, which I never knew what that was. Yeah.
Pulled the plug. Never mind. And so you go out there, you have now this good head start. And then where do you go?
Go into depression. I was just like, I don't even know what to do. Maybe I just go back to journalism roots. Like I was a big J journalist, like card carrying member, went to Northwestern journalism school, did all that stuff. I was like, I don't know about this on air thing, like not really my true passion. But when I was there, like Paris Hilton was leaving jail. I remember live on the air, we did some breaking news. I was like, where am I? So I thought maybe I would, do print journalism or do investigative journalism or do something else. And then, but I continued on in broadcast news and went to New York and went to CNBC.
Talk about a rebrand, right? So you go to CNBC. I want to know about CNBC, Nicole. Did you know about finances? Did you know? Did you have to learn? Did you have to cram?
A little bit.
I couldn't have made that pivot. I know I couldn't have made that pivot. I mean, I could toss to the stock market update, but I mean, even to this day, don't know as much about that as maybe I would have needed to in order to do that job.
I think you know more than you give yourself credit for. But I actually started when I was at Northwestern on the floor of the Chicago Merc. That was my very first big girl TV job. And I went to these local news stations, which you did back in the day. I went to the CBS station in Lexington, in Sioux Falls, in Palm Springs, went to this little broadcast company in Chicago that had a station in Milwaukee, which I thought I would, be like big market. I thought that would be my Daryn Kagan moment. Yeah. No,
Milwaukee's an excellent market.
Totally. And I was like, I will do anything to go be in Milwaukee. And they were like, no, you don't get that job. They were like, do you know anything about business news? And I lied and I said yes. And they were starting this morning business show on the floor of the exchanges there. And that's actually how I got my start. I was 18 on the floor of the exchanges.
So you did have some financial experience. So you landed after CNN, you go to CNBC.
Yes. I mean, kind of. Listen, I grew up in an immigrant family. I wasn't talking about stocks and bonds growing up. Right. It all sounded like Chinese to me. Yeah. It was, I ended up, studying again right before I went to make sure that I could do this global show, which I felt, a lot of imposter syndrome about, but ended up doing it.
You did it. Now, you've also been honest, I know, so you pulled it together professionally for on camera, but while you're talking finances and the financial world, you're kind of a mess personally. Yes. What was that picture like?
It's such a mess. I was in credit card debt, personally. So I think there was a disconnect between talking about macroeconomics and actually getting my own personal financial life together, right? And we learn this stuff in school very esoterically. We'll learn Keynesian economics, right? But not how to do our taxes or how to do a business plan or how to make a budget or any of that stuff. So I was the example of that. I could speak finance, but I couldn't walk the walk myself personally. So I was in debt. I felt so embarrassed to be speaking about this general topic, but feeling like I didn't have it together myself.
And so in general, what did that picture look like? Here you are, a CNBC financial news anchor, and personally, how bad?
Oh, wow. Getting out of credit card debt. So so growing up in an immigrant family, I only saw cash. Like nobody talked about a mortgage. That wasn't a thing. And so once I finally could get a credit card, I just went wild. I was like, oh, I need this for work, or I need this for whatever. And so when I decided to get out of credit card debt, I knew that I wouldn't go back. And I broke it down by the day. It was $7 a day or something in the plan that I created just on my own, because I didn't see any resources out there that talked to me in a way that I could understand, which ultimately what I created.
Exactly. Which is a great reflection of your beautiful heart, because you haven't wasted your own pain or your own journey. I mean, it would be great. It would just be a great story by itself. I had this problem. I fixed it. I go on. Great story. But you, Nicole, of beautiful heart, of sweet souls, and I'm not going to waste this. I'm going to use this to help other people, specifically other women, how to access this world, how to fix their own money mess. So at a certain point, you leave CNBC. When you go out and start kind of making your own brand, that's still pretty early for journalists doing that.
It was really early. My agent at CAA at the time, Alan Berger, who I've spoken to since then about this, was like, you're ruining your career, period, the end. You are on this trajectory, and you know this trajectory all too well, Daryn. It was like the paradigm back in the day where you go to local news, you go to network news, you go to the White House, you go to the morning whatever, you go to the nightly whatever. And he represented Katie Couric at the time. And, so he was like, you're on this thing. And I'm like, this is not a thing anymore. This is not going to be a thing. Like the Kardashians are hosting the Today Show. This is Mario Lopez is hosting an entertainment news show. Like the paradigm is not happening anymore. And so I kind of saw that early on. And I got so much heat for it. I ended up actually having so much remorse that I went back to Bloomberg a year later and did another show. And then I really, really left. It was like a bad relationship where I was like, oh, one more time, it will be different.
I'll go back. We can make this work.
Totally.
I did something similar after CNN and creating my own media company, but they showed me the door. I like to say I'd still be sitting in that anchor seat if they hadn't kicked me out the door. That, break up with me, dump me, fire me, I will make something happen. But people like you who say, and I'm going to pick myself up and make this change. I mean, where did that come from? So you could have still been doing that.
However the breakup happened, they started it, I started it. Like we broke up for real, for good. And, my therapist says that my coping mechanism is advocacy. And there was a lot of pain and trauma around finances for me. And understanding it on my own helped me confront a lot of that. I'm still confronting a lot of that. It runs really deep. And I really realized at the time that there was this void that nobody was talking. Susie Orman is amazing. She, trailblazed this area that I started playing in. And yet there was space for people to listen to her and maybe somebody else. And so I wanted to be that somebody else, or see if I could be that somebody else. And there's this analogy that I use in one of my books, which feels really eerie right now, that I felt like I got through the fire personally, and I wanted to bring back buckets for those still caught in the flames.
We'll get to the fire. We're going to get to that. But one more thought about this that I just, again, really appreciate about you is that I remember watching this and watching you do these books. It was Rich Bitch and it was Bitch
Boss
That,
Bitch.
Bitch That. Yes.
Yes. Only 2 bitches.
Okay, only 2 bitches. So there were the 2 bitch books, which did very well. And I remember going like, well, who said she's the one? And I go, oh, I get it. She said she's the one. You didn't wait for somebody to crown you, for somebody to say, okay, Nicole, I'm saying you're a star, or I'm saying you can go be this person. It's like you looked around and said, I don't need a license for this. I'm going to do this because I say I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Sounds so much better when you say it. Thanks, Daryn. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I crowned myself.
You did crown yourself.
that,
I'm all
Alan
about
Berger.
a tiara. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, I would love to know what that conversation was when you said, I'm going to go do this.
I was so scared. I left CNBC mid-contract. And it was because they told me to not do a lot of the series that I wanted to do and the reporting that I wanted to do. And they said, just sit there and read the teleprompter. And at that point, I had already been in this business for a decade. And I was like, no, that is a commodity, I think, at that point. You can find somebody else and they can read, just as well as I can. I don't know if that's enough. And ultimately, I decided it wasn't, and I, took a big. People were gonna have feelings, Daryn, about rich bitch. They were either gonna love it or they were gonna hate it. There was no middle ground, and thankfully, they did. Many did the former, but it was a thing at the time. If we could have got a woman to pick up a money book who never imagined she picked up a money book because it had a title like that, then we all win. And so that was my goal. It was truly like I saw the wage gap was narrowing, but this financial literacy gap was wider than ever. And it still is, which is why I continue to pop out book babies.
Book baby number 5 is called
The Money School.
And we will have a link for that. Yes.
Thank you.
And The Money School is what's different about this 5th book than the others?
This one is not only geared toward women. I think with media, as you know, you can't be all things to all people or you're nothing to anyone. And so I really was like laser focused on who I was talking to. And I knew exactly who she was because she was my former self. But now, as I grew up, I think my audience grew up with me. And there was a lot in those 10 years that came out for women. And it was a little bit pejorative. It was like, shrink it and pink it, but make it finance. And I was like, no, I don't want like a lady bank. I want to be at Goldman Sachs. Like with every, I don't think this needs to be just a woman thing. So that was the Money School. And it was really this answer that I had been talking about for years, that we don't learn this stuff in school. Like I went to
That's true. Yep, good schools.
Fancy school and spent a lot of money on my brain and still didn't learn any of this stuff. And so I was like, why didn't we learn this stuff in school? I constantly complained about it. And so I just did something about it. I was like, well, here's my school. I'm the least
School's
likely
in session.
professor.
So the media career, it now encompasses books, consistently one of the top podcasts on Apple Podcasts, not just in the money department, but in overall.
Honestly, Daryn, if I had all the money in the world, I would be sitting under a tree writing poetry. I often say that this crazy journey took me to so many places I had no business being. And I ultimately became a writer, just not the kind I wanted to be, or not the kind I expected to be. Maybe. Yes.
Yet.
Thank you.
Yet. So while this professional journey is going on, there's also a personal journey, something we also share in common, a kind of a long road to find the right partner, a long road to become a mother. It's like a fairy tale leading to last January. You have this baby girl. She's 2 weeks old. You've got the guy, you've got the partner, you've got the baby, you've got this beautiful home. And what happened?
And then we lost everything. You know this dirty. It was.
You're okay talking about this? I just want to check.
Totally.
I know. Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Okay.
When my now husband first told me he loved me, the first thing I said was, "Is there going to be an earthquake?" Which is the craziest thing to say. I was like, "It can't be this good. No, like something bad is going to happen right now." And I tell my therapist this, and she's like, "Sometimes it just works out. Like sometimes it's just okay. And things were, for a moment, working out. And it was so odd because I was like, what's next? Like, what shoe's going to drop? Like, what's the catch here? And there wasn't until there was. So my daughter was 2 weeks old in our home that I had just built a nursery in, and had just built a whole studio, like our first big kids studios in walking distance in the Palisades, so that I could walk to work but have separation, so I could I tried to safeguard against, which I felt predisposed to postpartum depression. And so I wanted to try to be thoughtful about creating that space. I built it while I was pregnant. Beautiful commercial office, which I was so proud of. Built our whole life, like in kind of walking distance, her pediatrician, everything. And if you would have asked me for the top 10 million things I was worried about postpartum, losing my entire town, my home, my car, my office, my everything I owned, that would not have been on the list. And I have a very creative, dark imagination about this type of stuff. But yeah, we left with only the clothes on our back. And, we lived in an area where I thought, we'll be back. LA, like you get evacuated and you come back. So like I was still also wearing diapers as my daughter was wearing diapers. Like we just left. I didn't take my wallet. My husband didn't take his wallet. We just put everybody and the dog in one car, and we went to our friend's house and we watched TV, and we thought, okay, like we'll be back. Like, and we never went back.
Yeah. First of all, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What do you do? What's the first thing you do when you realize it's gone?
We went to a hotel at the time, and the city was chaos. And I had finally got confirmation. There was this map that we kept refreshing to see the fire border. And for a long time, it was like right next to our house. But then, when I first heard it, I think I didn't cry. Like I was just in shock, and I was kind of like in adrenaline mode. We have to find a place. We have a newborn. I don't know what to do with this human being that I just birthed. Like, I don't know anything. We have, nothing that we had just, set up. Nothing, literally no things. And at the time, there was thousands of people looking for a home in LA.
Yeah.
Also. So it ended up in just getting into go mode, along with so much competition. We were just fighting to find an Airbnb or a temporary spot. And so I think I just tried to go into as much action mode as I could.
And so now we're like 6 or 7 months by the time this plays out. You have a great episode of your podcast, Money Rehab, where you talk about what you've learned in the 6 months. First, from a practical standpoint, you give some really practical tips about things you wish you did differently.
Yeah, so many things. My insurance canceled the year before, and I didn't think much about it, even though I talk about this. It became one of those like full circle moments where I felt like the shoemaker walks barefoot, or like I'm talking about this, but I'm also not completely together with it. We got, very, very basic coverage for the office. I thought I would get insurance after I had a baby. And so I really wasn't prepared. It became a complete full-time job. And so many things I wish I knew. And it became really tricky to admit again, like hey, I talk about this all the time. I empower people to talk about it. I have other shows on the network that talk about it. We talk about this ad nauseum, and still I am now struggling again in this, unreal situation, natural disaster that I could have never predicted. But looking back, I would have taken a video of my house. Like, the most gut-wrenching thing was putting together an inventory of everything I owned, because even if it's not covered through insurance or FEMA, it can be taken off your taxes. Just going through that process was gut-wrenching. I wish I had just taken a video. Please, if you're listening to this, just do that today. Just do it. Just have it, just in case.
You just go through your house, take your phone. I have these sheets. I have this bed. I have this nightstand. I have this juice cup, sippy cup, maybe for you. Even if it seems small and insignificant, just have that.
Yeah. It will really help and jog. And not that you hopefully will ever need it at all. But I never thought I would need it either.
Yeah. Have you put together a plan, even if it's 10, 20 years in the making? Have you and your husband now say, okay, well, this is where we're going. This is where we're headed. Like, we are going to stay in LA. We're not going to stay in LA. We are going to rebuild. We're not going to rebuild. Or are you still in it is still too wiggly and fresh and raw, and we're still day to day?
It's a great question. We're just now peeking out from the survival, fight, freeze mode. We found a home. Thankfully, I turned the garage into kind of what my studio used to look like, which is where I am right now. Setting up this house and trying to make it home, buying literally everything from spoons to couches to everything. And I think we're going to be here. For a while, we were dreaming and we could do anything. We could go anywhere. But at the time, it just felt like too much was changing. We needed some grounding. So I think we're going to stay here for a minute.
Since this is a podcast about friendship, can you think of things that friends did right to help, or that completely dropped the ball? You think you're helping when, but really that doesn't help.
Yeah. I still need to process all of that from the last 6 months of friends who have honestly disappointed, and people who I never expected to just be absolute heroes. And it's so hard to ask for help. And I think there have been a few people that, it made me really sad that I mustered up the courage to be really, really specific. And, it didn't really land. But there have been people that, like my best friend, I brought me underwear that I didn't have, at the hotel, and cash and just everything. She's truly my chosen sister. And that's, I'm working on an essay that I think will resonate with you, that we have gotten the blood is thicker than water line wrong, that the real quote, and you may know this, that the blood of the covenant is stronger than the water of the womb, which is the complete opposite sentiment. And so I found such chosen, amazing family during it, which I'm so grateful for. So I'll focus on that.
And that will take you the rest of your life, really.
100%.
The ones
100%.
You really know, which I guess is the beginning of how something like this changes you. It's hard to separate because while this is happening, you're having the most significant change of your life of becoming a mother too. So you've just been one big change for the last 6 months.
It was all the things. I worked with a midwife who gives you the psychological evaluation when she does checkups. And then when you go to the pediatrician, they also make you fill this out. And I just was F you guys. Like, this is not fair. This is just not fair right now. Like, what do you mean? How do I feel? Better or worse than normal? Like, what do you think? And at that point, it was like everything that I had planned so carefully for postpartum was just my nest. Like, biologically, you want a nest, and the nest exploded.
Poof. I mean, in some ways, well, you have nothing to compare this to, right? Because you're a mom, you've been a mom once. So you can't say, oh, with the last 10 kids, it was like this and this is like this. So you don't know how much of this is the huge thing you've been through and how much of it is becoming a mother. How much do you feel like this has taken away from motherhood? In some ways, has it enhanced because you really don't have time to freak out about things that you might be freaking out about if this was a normal situation?
It was hilarious what I thought I needed for, our nursery that I built, or like whatever gadgets for her, diaper cream or her whatever. I was like, I just need like actual diapers. I just need, a onesie. And so, yeah, it was just the basics that I didn't have time for anything else. But like just doing it on the fly, just getting up and trying to mother through a crisis. Like she doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. You make an interesting point about baby stuff that you realize you don't need, that social media would try to convince you need every little thing. What about your relationship with stuff in general? As you create this new home, as you fill it up, whatever that means, what are you thinking about stuff?
It's a really important question. And I've talked about this in therapy because I thought that going through it would make me less attached to stuff. Like I had so much housing insecurity from growing up. I saw my house foreclosed on. I just like wanted a home. And I wondered if that would change during this because it's so ephemeral that it can all go away in a second. It was funny. I was just talking to my makeup team actually about like these eye patches that she used. And I was like, oh, I used to have so many of those. I saved them for like a special occasion because they're like fancy eye patches. And I never used them. And now they're all gone. And so it was a reminder to use the stuff that you're saving, to wear the dresses that still have a tag, because all of them indiscriminately were gone. But I actually went more to the extreme of like wanting everything to be beautiful and perfect and just appreciate, but from a place of appreciating it so much more. But it was interesting because I thought it would be the opposite.
I still think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate. You just want it because you appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
And when I'm thinking about your journey, so through the journalism and the finances and your personal life, this spectrum that you personally have experienced, I mean, you know some of the richest people in the world, and you know what it is to have nothing. So with that spectrum that so few people have had access to, what do you wish everyone knew about that, about the richest of the rich and the having nothing and what lives in between?
I think the sweet spot is somewhere in between thinking you'll live forever and thinking you'll die tomorrow. And oftentimes we hang out on one of those extremes and we treat our money the same way. I think the way we treat ourselves and our relationships, and a lot that I've discovered in therapy, is how we also treat our finances. It's the same thing. If you're avoidant in relationships, you're probably going to be avoidant in your finances. I think through this, and all these are little half-thought thoughts just for you, but I think
just you and me.
Just us girls.
Yes.
I think there's like a threshold. There have been studies that show $75,000, but beyond that, you kind of have the same happiness from money. Like you can still, I think it's more than that at this point.
A little more than $75,000.
But there's a threshold. Like there's an amount where you have your needs met. And beyond that, the burger is the same burger that anyone is going to get. You can only watch one TV at a time. And so I think there's just a critical mass that once you get it, the rest I've noticed from the people that really are in the game of adding zeros is like a game. It's just about the winning. But the actual lifestyle, you get the same burger, you watch the same TV, and there's a number for all of us that makes us feel safe or like we'll have enough. And, I would venture to guess that it's lower than what you imagine you will need, actually. And that will make you feel like you can buy anything. There's little things that are different for everybody. But for me growing up, it was that I needed to turn off all the lights when I left a room to save money on electricity and only flush the toilet if it was number 2 to save money on water. And so now I flush the toilet all the time. But I leave the lights on.
Good to know. If anyone's going to invite Nicole over, she's a flusher.
Don't worry about that. But I'm very extravagant with my light usage. Like I leave the lights on all the time. It drives my husband crazy. But now it's my indulgence. Like I made it. I can leave the lights on. And I find it's those small things. It's not like buying the yacht that makes you feel rich and like you've made it. For me, it truly, it's none of the other stuff. It's like the leaving the lights on.
Well, I'm going to have to share that story with Trent, my husband, who will come in and say, "Are you leaving that room?" Not because of the light. No, he's going to go in the Georgia summer heat and turn the air conditioning off because I'll be out for like 10 minutes. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to keep the room cool. We're going to go crazy and leave the air conditioning on for 10 minutes while I leave the room.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if that makes you feel good, Daryn, yes, bring Trent over.
I will say from my journey of traveling through, and this goes back a ways, kind of in my CNN time, but really getting to know some of those uber rich people, especially like in the New York world.
Yeah.
I found it to be so amusing and kind of like a joke because you would meet people at a certain level that most people would consider very successful, but they were looking at the next level, Everybody was looking at the next richer person until you meet that richest person. And that richest person was more miserable than any of them. And just personally with his own problem. And I just thought, well, if this isn't the biggest joke, like everyone's chasing that next level to get to the thing that it's really not the promised land of happiness.
It's not, it's the age old question of, will money make you happy? And money can help buy a lot of things that can facilitate that, but that's an inside job. I just interviewed Ray Dalio, who's one of the richest men in the world. And he was on my sort of, when I started Money News Network, my bucket list of who to bring on. And when I was interviewing him, he has all the money in the world, and over COVID, he lost his oldest son in a car accident. And he talked about it for the first time. And money didn't make him immune from that. And he would have given all of it up, obviously for his son.
Yep. It doesn't, in that case, it doesn't buy you happiness. Definitely not. Well, a little thing that could buy a little bit of happiness. We like to ask everybody here on the podcast, what's the one thing you're recommending to a friend? And it could be like a show, a beauty product, a book, a film, anything. When you tell your friend you have to check this out, what's the thing that you're saying besides Money Rehab podcast? Because that's the thing that I'm telling people.
Thank you. Therapy when you're okay. I think I used therapy for most of my adult life as a thing I would do in triage when I was in crisis. And it's actually really important to, it's my one sacred time that I try not to ever move is Fridays at 10 a.m. And so I think, doing that when you feel like there's nothing to talk about, there's often times where I'm like, I'm going to cancel. I'm good. I'm fine. But that's actually when you do the most important work sometimes.
And I also ask friends to tell me about the friend they need to know about. You mentioned your friend who is your sister by love. Who's that friend?
Well, I'm tearing up this entire conversation. And so, but Tracy she just showed me her emergency contact form, and she wrote me as like sister. And she is such an incredible woman. She was born with spina bifida. You don't know a lot of adults with spina bifida because a lot of kids don't make it through. And has this disability that sometimes has caused her not to be able to walk, but ran Tradesy, which she sold for 9 figures, is just the smartest human, the best human that I have ever met in my whole life. And I am so lucky every time I get to talk to her. I just, as somebody who writes and speaks for a living, there's not enough words that I can ascribe to the friend she is.
So shout out from me to Tracy. So hey, Tracy, thanks for being so great to my Nicole.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. And like I said, the thing I'm going to recommend is Money Rehab, your podcast. Your tagline is you're the financial expert that you don't need the dictionary to be able to understand, which is so true. And you can learn all the money basics and understand the stock market and all those things that you think that you can't master. You absolutely can with Money Rehab. The episodes I really, really like are when you bring on, sometimes it's a celebrity, sometimes it's just somebody who needs help, where you truly do money rehab. And through the power of story, of hearing them and how you can help them, I'm not only just so touched, but I learn a lot that way. Even if it's something that has completely nothing to do with my story, I'm like, I think I need to take care of that. So you can find Money Rehab with Nicole Lapin.
Thanks, Daryn.
That's my recommendation.
I love that. I do think financial health and financial self-care can be up there with other kinds of self-care.
Well, this is so overdue for us to connect like this with everything you've got going on. Thank you so much for making the time. I started with a hug. I'm going to end with a hug.
I'll take it.
I'm just so proud of you. And you got this. You got this.
Thanks, sister.
It's messy, but you got it. Definitely.
Thank you. It's so nice to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Thank you, friend. Oh, that was such an incredible, emotional conversation with my friend, Nicole Lapin. I just so appreciate her honesty, her raw comments, talking about how sometimes when you think things can't go wrong, actually, they really can. But the way she's rebuilding, like she's rebuilt other parts of her life, and the things that she appreciates and the people she's leaning on. And not surprisingly, the thing that really touches me is how her good friend Tracy has really been the backbone of how she's putting things back together. So shout out to Tracy. Really appreciate you as well. And I really, really do like Nicole's podcast. It's called Money Rehab. You might already be listening to it because so many people are. It's a top podcast, but you can learn so much about what other people are going through, about what the markets are really about, how it applies to you, and really how you can get your own financial health looking in a better situation, which I think we can all use. Thank you so much to Nicole. You've been listening to Call Me Friend. Executive producers for the show are Nicole Kagan and me, Daryn Kagan. The show is produced by Produce Your Podcast and Journeyist Inc. Production help by Abe Follick, Tammy Gagno, and Rob Paw.
Before you go, Call Me Friend is more than a podcast, it's a community. So head over to callmefriendpodcast.com to join the conversation. Or you can call or send a text to 912-766-0446, and you can leave Daryn a message there, or maybe even share a story of your own. Because when life gets real, you don't have to go it alone. Call a friend. Call this friend.